In staying on the road today, we're going to talk about keeping your RV slide out smooth and trouble-free. And then enjoying the RV life, we're going to explore finding LP filling stations while on the road. And then in our money saving tip segment, we're going to explore eating on the cheap in your RV. And then in the next stop, we're going to go to the amazing Moab, Utah. And then in Shadows of the Past, the towns that once were, it's Cisco, Utah this time. And then in RV Envy, we're going to talk about this brand of slide-out seals called Flippin' Seal. This is Eric Stark with the Smart RVer Podcast, your trusted source for tips and insights to embrace the RV lifestyle without worries. So let's talk everything RV today, and this is episode 175. So let's dig right into it. So, Alexis, you're sitting there with the big giant cup of coffee. Are you ready to go today?
I am now. I've chugged it a little bit, so I'm good to go.
I've noticed, man. That's now a small cup of coffee.
Yes, it is.
Well, that's cool. So we're ready to go.
Yes.
You know what? I don't have much to say today as we get into this.
That's amazing.
I know. Well,
Just
it's early.
kidding.
It's like, what, 3 in the morning now?
Yes, it is. Yep.
Something like that.
Yes.
All right. So, yeah, we're going to just get right into this. There's always a rant, but I don't have any notes today. So we're good, you know. Maybe I'll come up with something, a surprise at the end. So now before we get into the meat of all this and get into enjoying the RV life, I just want to remind everybody, if you're looking at buying a new or used RV, check out wholesale warranties. If you go to the description of this podcast, there's a link there. You click on that link, you fill out the form, and you get a free quote. And then you can start talking to somebody there, and they'll guide you through the process of getting the best RV extended warranty that you could possibly get and making the right choice and saving some cash. And it's all about saving money these days, but doing it wisely. Mm-hmm. You know, you don't want to save money and be stupid about it. So this is stupid. I probably shouldn't say that word anymore, right?
Oh, that's not PC.
There goes my whole thing here. No, anyways. So you want to be smart about it, like the Smart RVer. So check out the link in the description of this podcast. Now that's going to bring us to enjoying the RV life and finding propane filling stations while on the road. So Alexis, this must be a gigantic worldwide problem, and you're going to provide the solution, right?
I am. I'm like Miss America.
Wow.
I'm like world peace and for everybody to find LP fill-up stations.
Wow.
Thank you.
I wonder if... No, I'm not.
You better not go there.
Yeah, you know what? It might not work. YouTube might not like it either.
Okay. I love it. Well, okay, this isn't Miss America. This is the Smart RVer, so let's talk. So I have this.
Wait a minute. I'm the Smart RVer.
Oh, okay. I gotcha. I thought we were talking to the audience. But
oh, okay. Yeah, no. They're the Smart RVers.
Oh, okay. Yes, I gotcha now. Okay. Well, we want to be knowledgeable about our propane tanks, right? So that's what we need to start with, is knowing what we need before we go and fill up. So knowing your tank size, how much you use, monitoring the levels, all good things to do before you even, go fill up. And then one thing that can really help is I found online there's a ton of apps and tools for you to download that actually help you find fill-up stations if you've not been somewhere before. So a couple of them are Gas Buddy, Google Maps. Actually, if you plug that in, it'll tell you where fill-up stations are. Allstays is a really good website. There's RV Life Trip Wizard. We've talked about that before. And a couple others, but there's a lot of help for on the road. So don't be afraid if you've never been somewhere and you know you need to fill up. You'll be able to find something. And usually, too, if you're staying at an RV park, the owners there or the other, RVers will know. They'll help you out, hopefully, unless they're really mean. So a few places you can just look if you're not going to use an app are truck stops. Sometimes they have them. Hardware stores, U-Haul locations, farm and ranch stores, and sometimes even gas stations have propane fill-up. So those are just a few places you can kind of eye and see if they have anything for you to be able to fill up there. And then it's always a good thing if you are planning like a longer route is to maybe check ahead of time and see where you can fill up, because you don't want to get caught without propane and need it. So it's really a good thing to plan ahead on that. And then always we talk about safety here. When you're handling propane, it's important to be really smart about it. So always secure your tanks in an upright position during transport. Check for rust. You want to check for dents in them. Just do some maintenance just to make sure you and your family are safe with that. What else do you have to say?
Well, I was just going to say, it's some of it's obvious,
Yeah, that's
especially
true.
after you've been getting propane for your RV quite a while. You know how much
Right.
it holds and all that kind of stuff. You know what you use, but getting out on the road sometimes is the real hassle trying to find it, especially when you get more remote areas. So that's where those apps and a little research ahead of times. If you think you're going to run out, like Google, we've seen that works really well. Mm-hmm. Like that works for dump stations, all sorts of stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
Divorce lawyers, everything.
Yeah.
But so knowing that in advance, it'll save some struggles.
Yes,
because then you're driving around this little town trying to find it somewhere, or a big city, it becomes more of a hassle.
Right.
So it just cuts out some of that wasted time.
And some states have different regulations for propane. So you got to, do your research and know what that is. Just make sure you're all good.
Yeah, that's true. Some states you're not allowed to drive through a tunnel if it's X amount of feet long.
Really?
With propane. I mean, everybody does, but
interesting.
Yeah,
See?
so there's laws.
Yeah. Okay.
But laws, who needs those?
We don't care about those.
All right. So that's good information there. And again, that'll be on the website, thesmartrver.com, under Enjoying the RV Lifestyle.
Yes.
Enjoying the RV Lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be there ready for your eyeballs to read and take in a little bit more. And there's always more on the website, too, than what we bring out here.
Yes.
So that's always good to know. Now, the money-saving tip for this episode is eating well on the cheap. So that's using your RV kitchen or the kitchen in your RV, and that's going to save you some money. Because, it's food has become kind of a thing where the prices have kind of crept up. They've crept up quite a bit in the last year or two. And it kind of sneaks into your budget. And you don't realize it, how much money you're spending on food, especially like if you don't ever go to the grocery store. Like if your wife always goes to the grocery store and you never do, you might hear about her complaining, but whatever.
Yeah.
Then you go one day to do a little shopping, all of a sudden, wait a minute, this was $100, didn't even fill a bag.
Why are eggs $9?
Yeah, exactly. Gallon of milk, $82.
Yeah.
So those things sneak into the budget, and all of a sudden you go, wow, this gets really expensive.
Yes.
And then eating out anymore has gotten really bad. It's like an omelet now is $40.
I know.
So, we can save some money, which saving money makes the RVing, well, you can RV more. You can use your RV more. The more money you save, and it's a thing, a nickel here, a quarter there, it all adds up. Mm-hmm. So all the roadside diners and the places you see, we could call those a budget buster.
There we go. I like that.
They're going to just ruin it, and then you had a tasty meal, but half an hour later you forgot about it.
Right.
Then the next time you drive through that town, you go, wow, that's the place where we laid out $100 for two of us.
Right.
Wow, that was a mistake. Food was good, but there's no point in breaking the bank when you don't have to.
No.
So it's meal planning. And, in an RV, sometimes it can be a little more difficult to plan a big meal or make food in bulk, I should say. That doesn't even sound attractive, right? Food in bulk. Cafeteria style, big, giant 50-gallon tub of...
I love it.
Cigarette smoking woman leaning over it, stirring it,
Mac and cheese with little ash in there.
There you go. Ash and cheese.
Ash and cheese.
That could be named like a Hollywood couple, Ash and Cheese.
Ash and cheese. Nice.
All right. So back to reality here. So sometimes if you plan ahead, you can bring food with you, at least maybe for the first day or two. If you're going to be gone for just a weekend, it makes it real simple. I know we always like to make something for the first day, so that way we don't have to really mess with it. And then once we, the next day we start getting into the cooking mode or doing whatever, or have something as a backup that can be part of a meal or a meal by itself if need be.
Yeah.
So planning ahead. And, when you go out on the road, sometimes grocery stores, you're paying a lot more for the food. You don't realize how expensive it can be.
That's
and then
true.
you go out of town and man, whoa, that's really bad. Mm-hmm. So buying what you can at home and cutting out those trips to the stores, especially like a convenience store, a campground store, you know,
Prices
loaf of
are
bread's
crazy.
$18.
Yeah.
And also in a lot of these towns, you can find a local farmer's market if they have one. And quite often you can get the fresh produce and fresh other things. Now, you can also blow a lot of money there if they have a lot of knickknacks for sale. So you got to be careful going with a mission, you know.
Yeah.
But you can save some money there and get better quality produce. So that's a good way to do it. Now, another option would be, this takes us back a few episodes. You can get an Instapot or Instant Pot. Mm-hmm. That just made me think of that shorts about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Instant Pot. And so you can make food in bulk, you know, the one pot wonders. Or, you know, if it's not an Instant Pot, you know, a slow cooker, crock pot type
Same thing, yeah.
You could make it at home, or you could actually make it in the RV. Not that big of a deal, especially if you're in an RV park where you have 110 volts. You let that baby cook all day.
Right, yeah.
And then that can be a few meals. Depending on what you make, how good you cook, you might eat it one time and that's it. But
going in the garbage.
If it tastes good, then you can use it for recycle it, repurpose it for lunch and dinner for the next day. So it's doing that saves some money, and it actually makes it easier too. You're cooking one time and then you're just heating up after that. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of a double whammy there. You get a couple things out of it that you maybe weren't even thinking about. So it's getting creative and just looking at your budget, where you can cut corners on meals, because food, I couldn't even imagine traveling with kids today. No. A family of like 5 going to like even McDonald's. It'd have to be $100.
Oh yeah,
you know?
Easily.
And it's just garbage food. It's horrible. Mm-hmm. So, you know, another thing too would be bottled water. Get a filter type system like one of those Britas. Then you can save on buying bottled water.
That's a good one.
And that adds up. Then you can just refill reusable bottles.
That's what we do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there we go. Now we've helped you save a ton of money. So now you can enjoy that RV a little bit more.
You're welcome.
And this full article will be on the website, thesmartrver.com, under money saving tips. Now that brings us to staying on the road, keeping your RV slide out smooth and trouble-free. All right, so we're going to break this topic up into several different sections, if you will, to make it a little bit easier. So we'll go through them one by one. But, you know, slide outs haven't always been around. Mm-hmm. Now, some younger RVers, newer RVers, they might think they've been here forever, kind of like young people think cell phones have been around since the turn of, beginning of time. Well, slide outs used to be called tip outs. In fact, some people still call them tip outs today.
They do.
So that was a room that you literally got in there, manually pushed it over. It had a lever or something, and you pushed it out. They were pretty cheesy, but they gave you some extra space. And yeah, those things were bad. But hey, it was the beginning of something new.
Exactly.
And today we have the modern slide out that, a push of a button, it goes out usually. Push of a button and sometimes comes back in.
Sometimes.
So they've given you some space, but hey, like everything else that involves technology, it eliminates one. Well, it wasn't a problem. You just didn't have as much space in an RV. That really wasn't a problem. It's just our desire to have more, more. So technology came along and created the automatic slide rooms that now give us one more thing to work on, to spend money on. But hey, that extra time, extra space is worth it, right? But you've probably, if you've been RVing for any length of time, you've probably experienced where you get ready to go or put your slide out and it doesn't go out. You get ready to leave the trip and you go to bring it back in, it doesn't come in. There's all these little issues that can come up. But you want to keep that slide out working, and sometimes preventative maintenance can be such a huge factor in this. And so we're going to talk about slide out maintenance for the next couple minutes here. We'll try to go through this quickly because I know you guys are the smart RVers and you're maintenance experts, you're gurus, but we still got to cover it. So, it's like I was just saying, where you hit those buttons or the button and it doesn't come in, doesn't come out. You just get to your campground. You've been driving all day, and you just want to get in there and kind of get that RV put together so you can just chill out now. Long drive, you ran off a cliff, ran over a dog, all sorts of stuff.
Aw.
And you hit the button and the slide room doesn't move. You go, oh man, all right. So you have 2 slide rooms, you hit the other button, well, it goes out. Okay, half the battle's won now. But you still got that other one. Now, what is that? Is that a button? Is the switch bad? Is a fuse blown?
It's karma for hitting the dog.
There you go. Payback. So is that a problem you can solve right there? Is that a problem you could have prevented? And the same goes true for bringing it back in. Let's say it did go out when you hit the switch. And then it's time to leave. You've been there for 3 days. You're sick and tired of the campground where you're at. All the dogs are bothering you because you killed one of their brethren. And so it's time to go. And you hit that switch and that room doesn't come in. Oh, man. Now what? Just get a chainsaw and cut it off.
Yeah.
You have your spouse out there pushing on it. Push harder as you're hitting the switch, So sometimes a little bit of preventive maintenance can save, hundreds of dollars in repair or even thousands. So we call that TLC, I think, tender loving care, taking care of that slide room like it's a little baby.
Aww.
So that preventative maintenance is very important, and it's always neglected. Well, always. My wife tells me not to say always, because when I do that, it's exaggeration. A lot of times it's neglected. Just like everything else. We're going to talk about that in another episode about maintenance, and it's a lot of things that are just neglected. Let me look at your house. How many things do you neglect?
Yeah.
How many things you walk by? Mañana, right?
That's right.
Okay, so first off, to really be able to maintain your slide-out system, it's good to know what type you have. Not all slides are equal. One thing that we've talked about here in our store and on the show is that when you're in your RV and you're looking at a light, let's say on the ceiling, and maybe this is your first or second RV, and it happens to be the same light in your second RV, but in your first RV, you might think that every RV has the same lights in it. And it's not that way. RVs have a zillion different lights in them. Just like slide rooms, they're different. So don't assume your slide is the same as every other slide. There's difference. If you bought a new RV, more than likely the slide room mechanism would be different. If not anything else, it might be the same brand but different components. So they're not, one motor doesn't fit all, if you will. So understanding that, whether your slide room is electric or hydraulic, is important. These little things will help you in your maintenance, where if it's hydraulic, you're going to want to check the hydraulic fluid. Know what type of fluid goes in there. It's generally transmission fluid. But knowing that before you need it and having some on hand is half the battle sometimes. Because I know I've seen that where out installing awnings, and you got to bring the slide room out or in, and it doesn't work. And the guy's, panicking now. He doesn't know what fluid goes in there, doesn't have anything.
Oh, geez.
It turns into kind of a 3-ring circus. And as patient as I am, yeah, that gets old quick. So having it figured out beforehand, and then it could be 12 volt, but knowing where the motors are at, the fuses, do you have a control box for it? Most of the modern ones have a circuit board, if you will, or the buttons that you press, they're part of a little panel, a display that, knowing that, is it replaceable? Having a bead on this stuff in advance saves some problems, and a little bit of understanding this stuff. If you can, get the schematics or the instructions from the manufacturer of the RV or the slide out system, so you know how this stuff works. And it doesn't mean you're going to be out there in the field on a camp trip, tearing apart your RV, fixing it. But it gives you a clue, like if you hit the button, nothing happens. Okay, is there a fuse someplace? That's probably the easiest thing to check.
Yeah.
So just having an understanding of it, it's important. And it's like, I say that about your entire RV. If you just take it, compartmentalize it or segment it, slide outs, the slide rooms, your leveling jacks, they're all different systems, but they all require something, but knowing about them in advance, having those manuals on your phone or printing them out in a binder, whatever works for you. It definitely pays off. And even with technicians, sometimes if they have to come out, their time is money, and you're paying for them to ask a whole lot of questions, kind of do some basic groundwork exploration so they can get a bead on it, because they can't look at your RV and go, oh, that's a Schwintech 2202. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
So you can be a little more armed and kind of intimidate the tech a little bit, like, hey, I know what I'm talking about here. Then they're not as inclined to, overbill you.
Yeah.
Another word for that, but I'm not going to use it today.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to be nice.
You're nice.
All right, so routine maintenance. This is important. So it's really very practical to get in the routine maintenance mode. I mean, it's an RV, so there's a lot of maintenance already associated with it. Some of it's annual, some of it's biannual, but slide out maintenance should just be kind of a several times a year type of thing. That's going to help you avoid those moments. Now, those moments become memories. Good or bad is up to you.
Usually bad.
So one of the things to really focus on would be keeping the mechanisms clean. The mechanisms, it depends on your slide room. Some of them have aluminum tracks on the wall of the slide out on the outside. Some of them have everything underneath. Some of them have cables. But keeping the roof clean of all the debris that can build up there and wash it if you can. Because what happens when you bring that room in, if there's stuff up there, it goes inside, it wears out those seals, then it ends up inside, but it can actually keep it from not sealing properly. So that's a problem right there. And if you get enough of it, it could actually jam up the slide out.
Yeah.
It might go in and out, but it gets to a certain point where it kind of sticks. And, I see that a lot, slide room sticking. It's like, I'm afraid to even hit the switches sometimes. But clean the roof of the slide out. So that's one of the things. And then, the sides of it, just treat it like it's a car, I guess. Wash it, take care of it. You're not going to wax it. Well, you might wax the sides if it's fiberglass, but you're going to use your rubber roof coating on it. Yeah. Some of them are hard to get to because of the length of them.
Right.
But, a brush and some ingenuity will make that happen. Any moving parts on the slide out should be lubricated. So that would be the mechanisms. If it has the aluminum tracks on the side, those definitely are a Teflon type thing because you don't want to put grease on those. Those are very exposed. Underneath, and I say that because, you're just going to get the grease on you. It'll be a mess.
Right.
Spray silicone is much more friendly because it doesn't attract dirt, doesn't build up like grease would. And there's products made for lubricating slide out mechanisms. And so underneath you have gears, you have rods, you have shafts, you have wheels, you have stuff. All that needs to be lubricated. So think about that and clean them off. And it's probably best to give them a nice cleaning at least once a year to get any dirt and crud that builds up there, stuff from the road and everything. Keep it nice and clean. And even if it works, you're thinking, well, that's not a lot of dirt, but it's crunching, it's slowly ruining the gears. It gets inside the motors because it does pick it up. It's amazing how dirt gets everywhere when we don't think it really should.
Yeah.
So it works its way into the motors, ruins the motor. And if you got power gear motors, well, you could be looking at $1,000 easy just for a motor. So you want to avoid that. So that's the mechanism, the things that help keeping that slide out in and out. Now, the seals around it are very important. They last for years, but when it's time to replace those, if you have to do it prematurely, they can be very expensive. Some slide rooms have to come completely out of the RV to do it. And those seals are important because they keep water out, they keep air out. We just had one in our shop the other day, and, the slide room's halfway in and out. Man, it's just broad daylight looking through there.
Yeah.
So that trailer needs a lot of stuff. Yeah, 5 gallons of gas and a match, I think, would be the better solution for that. It was just neglected. That trailer was actually the epitome of neglect. Everything we did to it was just maintenance because it had been neglected. All the problems were from just flat out neglect.
Right.
Regular maintenance. So that maintenance pays off to do it yourself. It pays off the shop when they have to do it for you. So you want to save that money so you can go on more RV trips. So the seals, you want to use the dressing, whatever you want to call it. I can't think of the word right now, but you spray it on, it cleans the seals. Something like 303 works on that, or you can buy something more specifically for it, a rubber conditioner, which, most RV stores carry that type of stuff. 303 works really well, but the conditioners are made more for it specifically. So they'll have different agents or additives in there that will perform better. Now, if you have a slide room, you want to make sure if you're dry camping that your batteries are fully charged, not only when you get there, but when you leave, so you can bring it in and out. So that's something to pay very close attention to. And if your slide room is making noises when it goes in, goes out, it's catching, rubbing, bumping, drops off a little bit, those things aren't always normal, and they can be the sign of a potential problem. So you want to make sure that you're looking at that and correcting that. And if it's out of your skill set, just take it to a trusted repair center and let them look at it, because you don't want this thing to fail on you when you're out camping, and they do. And not all slide rooms are the easiest thing to get back in. Even when they're designed for a manual override, they can become a nightmare. Like some of the ones with cables, it's almost a joke what they give you to bring that thing in, if you can even get to the motor, if it fails on you, and what you have to do that. So you almost have to build something in advance to make sure you can work around that. So that was slide rooms with cables. Other ones are supposed to have cranks. Most RVers never know where their crank is. They can't find it, don't know what it looks like. So get this stuff ironed out in advance. And so listen, look, and make repairs as needed. If it's beyond your skill set, like I said, take it in, and don't let it drag on and get worse and worse and worse. Sometimes a small little problem can turn into a very big problem, ruin a trip, cost you more money, destroy flooring. It could be a mechanism now that's tearing something else up. So be the smart RVer. This stuff isn't rocket science, but it does take maintenance. And now there are some do-it-yourself fixes as well. When something goes wrong, you can jump in and fix it. Like maybe if it's not moving, you hit that switch, the slide out doesn't move. So is it the battery? We touched on that a little bit. Is it dead? Is it weak? Can you start up the RV or the tow vehicle and get it plugged in, or a generator and get some 12-volt juice pumping back into that baby and bring it in? If it's hydraulic, is it low on fluid? So those are some simple little things. A fuse, a bad circuit breaker could be another issue if you know where they're at and kind of know how to do it. It seems like a lot of RVers kind of figure out the slide out thing to a degree. They get to a point where it's got to be this. And quite often they're right. Most RVers have a pretty good beat on this, I guess. And now, if you're bringing in your slide room or taking it out, is it stuck part way? Did it just like stop, or did it kind of grind to a halt? So that could be something stuck in the tracks, debris, dirt. Maybe your RV is really unlevel and it's just throwing it off. It can't handle that. Generally that isn't a problem, but it can be. So, check those things out. Check for debris and stuff. Move your RV. If you've already leveled it, maybe adjust your jacks again. Do something and try to do it. And if you absolutely can't figure it out, then hopefully you have a manual override and you can bring it in and get it taken care of, or extend it the rest of the way if you're confident that you'll be able to get it back in. And then when you get under or back home, you can get it fixed. Now, if it's, catching, making those noises like I brought out earlier, something's wrong and you want to take care of that, especially if it's like a motor or gear. If it's a little out of whack and it starts making noise, it might be salvageable. You can adjust that or clean it out. Maybe the motor's actually loose and it's causing a problem. And if you catch that early enough, you can avoid buying a new motor or a gear set. But generally it's the motor. Well, the gear's in the motor. It's all a package deal. You can't buy one without the other. So that costs a fortune if it's, like I said, if it's power gear. Other ones become sometimes more difficult, like some of the Schwintech ones on a lot of the RVs. Those are now owned by Lippert. They're just selling a new kit for it. It's an upgrade, a retrofit kit, because the other ones had built-in problems. So now the problems are supposedly, resolved. Those kits are $1,400, on the cheap.
Wow.
Yeah, they're probably $1,600, $1,800 in the real world. On the cheap, they're $1,400, Then if you have water leaks, check those seals. Fix them up. Don't let that go. Water destroys everything. I can't emphasize that enough. So if you have to, do something to get you through a trip, but when you get home, take care of that. Don't let it go. And, it's always better to take care of this stuff when you can at home rather than try to, I'm going to wait until I get on my trip and do it. You get busy with other things. You're on vacation, man. Take care of it at home before you ever get out. And if all these other things aren't working for you and you absolutely can't figure it out, take it into a shop and let them fix it if there's a problem with it. Sometimes you just have to raise that white flag and surrender and pay the money. Or if you're just starting out, like, I haven't done anything with my slide out, I'm going to take it into a shop and see what they would charge to kind of get me squared up, clean it all up, do those slide seals, the mechanisms, and then from there on out, I'm going to maintain it. You probably don't need to do that. You can probably just do it yourself, but hey, whatever works, that it'll give you that extra confidence. So it's about saving money, but not being ridiculous about it. You try to save too much money and you end up spending more money.
Right, exactly.
That's something I've learned in life. You start trying to save money and man, that just cost me twice as much because I didn't do it right. I tried too hard, right? All right. So since we're all part of the Smart RVer family, we're going to work at this together and we'll keep these pointers and tips coming. And also, you can see this entire article on our website, thesmartrver.com. There's much more to it than what I said here. So check that out. It's actually a better read than me talking about it as well. It's like a novel, a mystery novel. Oh, the mysterious slide out. So again, check it out on the website. Now that you've got your slide outs all dialed in, the first place you're going to want to go is to Moab, Utah.
Yes.
And Alexis is going to tell us why you want to go to Moab. And wow, it's like the moon there, right?
Yeah, it is.
So it's like going to the moon or Mars. Maybe.
Kind of.
Maybe
really.
You'll see Elon Musk there.
Well, Elon.
There you go.
Hello.
So lay it on us, Alexis.
Okay. Today we're delving into the desert diaries. That's what I call this. We're going to go to Moab, Utah, like Eric said, a desert gem where history, adventure, and jaw-dropping landscapes collide. That was a mouthful. So this place is nestled in the American Southwest. Moab's story kicks off in the 1850s with Mormon settlers along the old Spanish Trail. So a little history for you. By 1878, it was officially born, named for a biblical land that mirrors its rugged, arid vibe, Moab. Fast forward to the 1950s, uranium turned this sleepy little town into a mining boom town, earning the title Uranium Capital of the World. So that's kind of interesting. A little background on Moab. Yeah. So Moab's a magnet for over 2 million visitors a year. You might ask why, and it's for two reasons: the arches and the canyonlands. So these national parks flaunt rock formations that are just incredible. Adventure junkies also like to hit the Slick Rock Trail for epic mountain biking. That's a big thing there. The Colorado River Rapids, or you can check out Hell's Revenge in a 4x4. That's pretty cool. You need to Google pictures if you haven't seen that. And then Moab has got a lot of charm too. They have a lot of art festivals during the summer. Neapolitan pizza at the Anteca Forma. That's incredible. That got really good reviews. I looked that up because I love pizza. And then you can also schedule stargazing under a dark sky certified night. This is cool. It's a guided trip that you go out in the dark, and it's just incredible. There's no stargazing like it. So pretty neat things you can do there. Of course, there's a lot of RV parks as well. Those are listed in the article. I'll let you look at that later. But from Native American petroglyphs to a uranium-stained past, Moab blends frontier grit with modern allure. So this is your next stop. This is your assignment, smart RVers. Check out Moab and maybe put it on your list of places to go.
Yeah, it's interesting. I never really thought of it more than anything more than four-wheeling and mountain biking.
Yeah.
Uranium, all the history there.
I know, there's a lot.
Now, I have been to restaurants, right? I know I've seen this on the menu. What'd you call it? Hell's what?
Hell's Revenge.
Hell's Revenge, yeah.
Yeah, that's a big thing there.
Yeah, it was a Mexican food place, I think in San Pedro, California. It was right on the menu, Hell's Revenge.
But that was spicy.
I didn't try it.
That's good. You would have regretted it. I love
and they didn't have a bathroom there either.
Oh, yikes. Nope.
So that's pretty interesting. It is a very popular place.
Very, yes.
And I wouldn't let the off-roading and the mountain biking intimidate you from not going, because maybe you're not into that, but it's worth seeing. You know, it's a gorgeous area.
Oh,
like
yeah.
so many other places in Utah. You
could just walk around it, you know.
So it's definitely worth going to and seeing and checking out. Mm-hmm. So that's high on our list. And so there's more on the website as well. If you go to the next stop, there's the full article. Everything's there. The full banana, maps, the whole 9 yards.
That's right.
That's right. Maps and everything else you need to know.
I like that. The full banana. That's funny.
Full banana. All right. So now this is going to bring us to the next part of the show, Shadows of the Past. Mm-hmm. And so let's take a look at this. So as I pull out another page from Grandpappy Popeye, it's got an interesting little read here. This one's kind of short, but let's just get right into it. All right, so we're going to look at Cisco, Utah. It's a dusty speck in the desert that's seen better days. And so much of the desert has seen better days, I think. But picture this. It's the 1880s, and Cisco springs to life as a water stop for the Denver and Rio Grande Western Railroad. Steam locomotives chug through, filling up for the town's wells, while cattle ranchers and sheep herders turn this remote outpost into a bustling hub. By the early 20th century, Cisco's got saloons, a hotel, and even a post office, small but thriving in its own rugged way. Then the twist. The railroads switched to diesel in the 1950s, and those thirsty steam engines rolled into history. No more water stops, no more Cisco. The interstate sealed its fate, bypassing the town entirely. By the 1990s, it was a ghost town. Abandoned shacks, rusted cars, and tumbleweeds taking over. But here's the kicker. In 2015, an artist named Eileen Musa bought Cisco, turning it into an offbeat haven for creatives. Today it's got murals, a skate park, and an artist residency. Proof that even in the silence of the desert, a new story can emerge. Cisco's a shadow of the past, but it's still whispering to those who listen. Now that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
That was good.
I wouldn't mind going there.
Me neither.
That's interesting because we have another one coming up in a couple episodes about one person owning a town.
It's very cool.
And, you know, I think it's always cool when someone buys a town.
Yeah.
I'd like to buy a town.
Wouldn't that be neat?
It would be. I don't know what I'd do with it, but it'd be fun.
But you could just say you own a town.
Right. There's probably all sorts of legal things you need to know. And if you don't know them, you're probably getting all sorts of trouble.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Might have a government agency coming after you.
Yeah.
All right, so that will also be in the on the website as well, in the Smart RVer, in Shadows of the Past.
Yes, sir.
Is that on the website? Yeah.
Yeah, you're correct. It is.
All right, so now that brings us to RV Envy, and we're going to talk about Flippin' Seal. Now, that's quite the name, right?
Just sounds funny.
You got to...
Get your flippin' seal.
That's right. So some people talk that way, right? Flipping this, flipping that. So this is a Flippin' Seal. So Flippin' Seal is owned by Jagger Unitech. In fact, there's going to be a link to their website in the description of this podcast. So Flippin' Seal makes all these different seals for slide outs. And you know what's interesting is they make ones that aren't like what everybody else has. They're different. I think they're for a lot of newer RVs. And new RVs don't always need new seals, but from time to time they do tear. But they also have seals that fit older ones. They have this great selection. So in the world of RVs and slide rooms, there's not just one seal that fits all. Sometimes you need a selection of 4 or 5 different companies to find the one that works on your RV. And sometimes you never find an exact replacement, so you have to find something that's close. Now, someone came in our store the other day. It was actually a mobile tech, and he had a seal that looked pretty odd, and it turned out Flippin' Seal had it. And they actually sent us a display box of all their seals so we could hold it right up to the old one or compare it to a picture. Makes life easier. So if you have an RV and you need some seals, well, check out Flippin' Seal. They might be able to solve or be heroes for the day, solve your problem. So again, the link will be on our website. Mm-hmm. Now that's bringing us to the end of the show, and I just want to give everybody one final reminder here about wholesale warranties. Go to the link in the description, follow it, get a free quote, talk to them, and save some money and get the best RV extended warranty on the planet. So our next episode is going to be 176. So we're gaining traction here. We're almost at the 200 mark. Woohoo!
Woo!
I don't know what that means, though. Like, do we get anything, Alexis?
Prize.
Do we get an award?
Get a Flippin' Seal.
I already got one.
Oh, okay.
That sucks. So just as a little tidbit to throw out there, too, if you have a power tongue jack, make sure you have a cover on it to protect the electronics. Especially a lot of the newer ones, they have touch pads on them and all these little things. They get destroyed in the sun and the elements, so get a cover for it and keep that baby covered. Even if you just throw a towel over it, something, keep the sun off it at the bare minimum. But having a nice cover for it works great. You know, they're under $20. Most RV stores have them, so cover that tongue jack. Even if you have a manual one, it's good to keep the water and dirt and stuff out of those gears that makes problems, and they feel kind of like a slide room.
Exactly.
All right, so I think we've come to the end of the show. So this is Eric Stark with the Smart RVer Podcast, your go-to guide for smarter RVing and unforgettable adventures on the open road. All right, we did it. So now I got trained on this camera. I told